ꯑꯩꯒꯤ ꯃꯤꯡ ꯎꯁꯝ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯧꯈꯣꯝꯕ ꯃꯤꯇꯩ ꯑꯩ ꯏꯪꯂꯤꯁꯀꯤ ꯑꯣꯖꯥꯅꯤ. Hello everyone. Today we'll be doing the 6th chapter of class 7 English, The Selfish Giant. The Selfish Giant, it was written by Oscar Wilde. So Oscar Wilde, he was born on 16 October 1854 and he passed away on 30th November 1900. So he was an Irish poet, the one who belonged to Ireland. So he was an Irish poet and a playwright. The Happy Prince and the Other Tales is a collection of stories for children written by him. So it was first published in 1888. So in that collection, The Happy Prince and Other Tales, so the story which we are going to learn now, The Selfish Giant, is included there. So the story which we are going to do now, The Selfish Giant, I hope you know what is a giant. Giant is a very big who like me that is called giant. So the story which we are going to learn today is about a selfish giant. Selfish so selfish giant and his garden, which is very, very beautiful. Okay, now let's read the story. Every afternoon, as they were coming from school, the children used to go and play in the giant's garden. So there was a garden where every afternoon the children, after their school is over, they used to come there and play. So it was a large, lovely garden with soft green grass. Here and there over the grass were beautiful flowers like stars. So when you look up in the night sky full of stars, isn't it beautiful? The dark sky in the background and full of twinkling stars. It was same with the grasses and the small but beautiful flowers. There were 12 peach trees. Peach trees. It is Manipuri da akoina chumbre have the chumbre pambi. There were 12 of them growing there in the garden. In the springtime, in the spring season, they broke out into delicate blossoms, soft and beautiful flowers of pink and pearl. So of pink color and about some pearl means shining white color. And in the autumn, those peach trees, they bore rich fruit. They give rich fruit. The birds sat on the trees and sang so sweetly that the children used to stop their games in order to listen to them. So even while they were playing, these children, they will stop their game and listen to the birds singing. So how happy we are here. The children cried to each other. They were very happy to be there. They were enjoying the beauty of the garden. One day, the giant came back. He had been away to visit his friend, the Cornish ogre, and stayed with him for 7 years. Here, let me tell you that Cornish ogre is the name of a popular giant often used in many of the English folk tales. So when he arrived in his home, in his garden, he saw the children playing in the garden. So, what are you doing here? He cried in a very gruff voice, in a very rough and terrifying voice. So, and the children ran away when he said, what are you doing here? So, the giant was very angry. He was very selfish and he was not able to control himself when he saw the children playing in his garden. He was very selfish. My own garden is my own garden and anyone can understand that. And I'll have nobody to play in it but myself, said the giant. So he built a high wall round it and put up a notice board. Trespassers will be prosecuted. So trespassers means those people who enter someone's place without permission. Here the children were not taking permission from the giant and they entered inside the garden, they were playing there. So here trespassers means the children. And prosecuted means taking to the court, doing some trial legally and punish the wrongdoer. But here it simply means the trespassers will be punished. By whom? By the giant. So he put up a notice board saying trespassers will be prosecuted. The poor children had nowhere to play now. They tried to play on the road, but the road was very dusty and full of hard stones. They used to wander around the high wall and talk about the beautiful garden inside, since they couldn't get inside the garden anymore and play there. So how happy we were there, they said to each other, remembering their joyful moments inside the garden. Then spring came. What changes take place when spring season comes? New fresh green leaves begin to grow. Some trees even begin to flower. So everything is beautiful and pleasant in spring. So trees all over the country, all over the place, there were little blossoms and little birds. But in the garden of the selfish giant, it was still winter. Winter was supposed to be over and spring should have started, but spring did not arrive. Hujiki garden ama khoi atop mi singidi spring je yening tha loi lak na khrebo. But for this selfish giant, magi garden de ke dore ngasagi spring je lak pi drevo. The birds did not come in it as there were no children. They were not willing to come there since there were no children, and the trees forgot to blossom. There were no blossoms, no flowers on the trees. So I have told you earlier that there were 12 peach trees, and they used to look beautiful and blossoms of pink and pearl. So, but they were very sad. So these 12 peach trees, they were very sad that children were not allowed to come inside anymore. And since that is why they forgot to blossom. The only people who were pleased, who were happy, were the snow and the frost. The snow covered the grass with her great white cloak. Cloak means an outer garment, very loose, which is very big, long and loose. And people living in cold countries mostly use such clothes. So the snow covered the grass with her big white cloak. And the frost painted all the trees silver. So here again, frost and snow are somewhat similar. Frost is thin white powder like layer which are found on the leaves, on the grasses early in the morning. So even in Manipur we can see frost, although we cannot see the snow here, but we can see the frost in many of the hills, especially in cold winter morning. So in other words, snow and frost were controlling the garden. So then they invited the north winds, the cold wind that blew from the north, to stay with them. Scientifically, the story is based in Europe, and in the north of Europe lies North Pole. So the wind that blows from the north are obviously very cold, and so they invited the north wind to stay with them. And what happens? The north wind roared all the around about the garden and blew the chimney pots down. So what is chimney pots? Chimney pots means the hollow structure either made of clay or metal from which smoke comes out. As you can see the picture, it is attached to the roof of the house. So although the fire is burning inside the house, the smoke of it will come out of these chimney pots. So the north wind roared and broke the chimney pots. So this is a delightful spot, he said. The north wind was saying, this is a delightful spot. This is a very happy place. So we must ask the hell on a visit. So Mr. North Wind was very happy to be there, playing there around, and he invited hell. So then the hell came. I hope you know what is hell. Hell haidi kaino koina rain habito ko. So it's the icy, frozen thing that falls down with heavy rain. So every day for 3 hours, Mr. Hell, he rattled on the roof. So he fell on the roof of the castle of the giant till he broke most of the slates. So in short, Mr. Hell broke the roof. And then he ran round and round in the garden as fast as he could. So he was dressed in grey and his breath was like ice. I cannot understand why spring is so late in coming, said the selfish giant, as he sat at the window and looked out at his cold white garden. So this selfish giant, he was sitting there near the window and looking out at his cold white garden and saying to himself, I cannot understand why spring is so late in coming, why spring is not coming yet. So it should have come there. I hope there will be change in the weather. See, in every places, winter was over, spring came, and summer was waiting. But in the giant's garden, spring never came, nor the summer. It was still winter. The autumn gave golden fruit to every garden. See, in others' garden, even summer was over, winter was over, then spring came, spring was over, now summer was over and came the autumn season. The short season at the end of the summer when trees start giving fruits, that is called autumn. So autumn season came. So but to the giant's garden, the autumn season gave none. Means to other gardens, she was giving fruits, but to the giant's garden, she was giving none. So he is too selfish. She said, the autumn season said, that the giant is very selfish. I won't give him any fruits. So it was always winter there, and the snow danced about the trees. So one morning, the giant was lying awake in bed when he heard some lovely music. So time passed on, then the giant was lying awake in the bed thinking about why the spring is not yet coming. Then again he heard some lovely music. It was actually really only a little linnet, a very small songbird singing outside his window. But it was so long since he had heard a bird sing in his garden. For a very long time, he had not heard a bird singing in his garden. Magi nakong sida ngasaygi magi garden sida ngasaygi isay gumba sakpiba uchek naga khongbiba sama tadaba kuirebako. Why? Because the winter never gets over. Winter just sungloy loy shandreba magi dediko. So to him, it was like the most beautiful music in the world. Then the hell stopped dancing over his head. The north wind ceased roaring. The north wind stopped roaring. The north wind was not roaring anymore. And a delicious perfume came to him. A very sweet smell came to him through the open window. The giant became very excited and happy. I believe spring has come at last, said the giant. And he jumped out of his bed and looked out. What did he see? He saw a most wonderful sight, a very beautiful sight. So through a little hole in the wall, so the wall he have built up, so there was a small hole, and the children had crept in, and they were now sitting on the branches of the trees. So in every tree that he could see, in every tree there was a little child in each of them. And the trees were so glad to have the children back again, that they had covered themselves with blossoms. They began to flower again and wave their arms. Their branches now filled with soft green leaves and beautiful flowers. So they waved their arms, they waved their branches gently over the children's head. Children singdugi makok singdudaga mokhoigi leina yomlaba manana yomlaba masa singdudaga thengbiyebako. So the birds were flying about twittering and with delight. The flower looking up through the green grass, laughing. So everyone looked happy. The trees, the grasses, the flowers, the birds, everything was there in a mood of spring. So it was a lovely scene. But in one corner, it was still winter. It was the farthest corner of the garden, and in it was standing a little boy. There was a little boy standing over there. So who was the little boy? Why was there still winter in the farthest corner of the garden? We will see in the next part of the session.